Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're coming to me from. I'm coming to you from the Sunshine State, and welcome to the No Shave Man Cave. I'm ElliJare on behalf of Jay Tilly. Whoo! Welcome, welcome, welcome to the No Shave Man Cave. Man, I've just been racking my brain as we get ready for WrestleMania, and all I keep thinking about are like memorable moments that I remember in professional wrestling. And there's been some loser leave town match, um, career versus career. You've had, the match between Ric Flair and Bret Hart, which was pretty cool. You had the Ric Flair versus HBK at WrestleMania right when Ric Flair retired, right? Yeah. And all of that was all of that was awesome. But there's been like memorable moments where everybody was like, "No way, I didn't see it coming." And that's the kind of stuff that makes wrestling fans, right? So you have the Hardys when they came back to WrestleMania. Oof, when their music hit, oh man, was that not bonkers, right? So, obviously if you're going to do a worst matches, I think it would be the Giant Gonzalez versus Undertaker, which I get the idea, the shock and awe that get up that he had, horrific. Um, I think Paul Bear showing up and turning on Undertaker definitely would have to rack and stack in some memorable moments. How could you, Undertaker? Just that shrill. That's up there with Vicky Guerrero, if you ask me. But you know the the some of the funnier moments in wrestling, obviously, or not obviously, maybe, but for me, it would involve someone being under the ring, or, when the Bellas first showed up and the sisters would swap, and they looked very similar at the time, and they would swap in the ring, and they would, they'd get a little bit of cheap heat, they'd get a win, that kind of a thing. Probably one that makes everybody's jaw drop would be Goldberg beating Hogan and holding both the US and the world title with for WCW. Did not see that coming, and I was totally floored. And that was just what happened, and that was the booking. Not sure, I can't remember what was going on behind the scenes. I think it was just based on they didn't want Goldberg's streak to break. Oh, Kofi Kingston hit some of his moves and action during the Royal Rumble. That's got to be up there. And he kind of had a bit of a miss on a move this year, but he's usually pretty sure-footed. So when he goes flying, that's something that's super cool. The Some of the debuts, I think, could definitely, line up. AJ Styles showing up in WWE. I think that would be a barn burner of a moment. Definitely the crowd absolutely being into it. Um, can't forget, this past WrestleMania, seeing Stone Cold in the ring again. I mean, to go against Kevin Owens, that was something that definitely makes wrestling fans walk out and go, "Oh my goodness." What is one of the most memorable photos that we see when we're watching WWE programming? That dude with the jaw agape, just standing there like, what did I just freaking see? And that would be Undertaker losing the streak. That absolutely, and again, that made no business sense to me, but I don't write the checks, so it's whatever. Um, Lesnar going, getting the win. I really that to me definitely would have to rack up. Two moments involving Hogan would be first off, him showing up in WCW would definitely have to account for something. And the way it happened, so he shows up on television and then bam, he turns and goes from the Hulkster to Hollywood Hogan with that with the blonde mustache and the dark beard. That would definitely that would have to definitely go on everybody's holy cow moments. How about this one? Ric Flair showing up in the WWF or WWE with Big Gold and Bobby Heenan in tow, talking about, "Oh, this is your real world champion." Um, wow. I was, if you go back on to Peacock, you'll be able to sit, or if you're overseas, you still have the WWE network, but definitely that would definitely have to, be counted up there as a oh shit moment. Sorry kids for the language. Um I think a depressing moment would be anytime Vincent Kennedy McMahon is in the ring. Outside of when Bret Hart finally got a hold of him, he got his comeuppance. What was that? 95? No, might have been 90. Maybe it was 95. Um, and yeah, to see him be able to lay into um, Vince McMahon, definitely that was awesome. Bret Hart did make his way back into the WWE fold in the 2010s, 2009, 2010. That was cool to see him, but not like being able to knock the starch out of out of Vincent McMahon. That's always nice. How about the most memorable moment? For me, it's watching Jerry the King Lawler throw that fireball. I will never forget that moment ever. And that's, absolutely what, turned me into a wrestling fan. Uh, when you talk about memorable moments, it could be unveiling a new title. I really loved when they changed it from the Divas title to the women's title. I thought that was fantastic. The unveiling of new titles, I really get into that because I'm kind of a title nerd. I think those are really, really cool. Um, the the assembling of, and then whatever mixture of the four horsemen, I think will always be cool. Seeing that is pretty legit. Um, ooh, the moment when Stone Cold is trying to get out of the Boston Crab and the blood is running down his face and it's pooling up in his mouth. That Now that is freaking memorable. Um, to the point where, that term of getting over and going over, and, then you get the promos with Stone Cold and I mean, just like the momentum that was building was just crazy. The announcement of WrestleMania I thought was really cool. Like if you were to sit and watch WrestleMania now without WrestleMania 1, right? You don't have any context. You don't know why Tito Santana is having this match against this masked dude. You don't know who the masked dude was. Um, it was Buddy Rose, but Buddy Rose didn't mean anything to any WWE fans because that was back in the territory days, and everything was so regional. You didn't know that he was the dude up in Portland really laying it in and doing some really, really good work. And then you got WrestleMania and the card, the and I'm going to say spectacle because you know Gene Okerlund Gene Okerlund sang, did the announcing, did the backstage. There wasn't all this like mass pomp and circumstance until you get to WrestleMania 3 and watching them come down on those, the mini ring and seeing, all the people. I thought that I was like, man, this is why I like professional wrestling. Seriously love it. Anytime a character or a wrestler or a superstar goes away and comes back and they've reinvented themselves, I think is fantastic. Um, one of the greatest reinventions of, I don't want to say all time because that's, all time, has to be Cody Rhodes. And, he leaves Stardust, he leaves dashing Cody Rhodes, he leaves the son of of Dusty, comes back the American Nightmare. And the pop at WrestleMania when he came strolling in and took on Seth, fantastic. Or when he took his jacket off, woo! And the blood pooling and the bruising from the little peck pop, woof, man, that was something. The Probably one of the best reinventions has got to be Maya Villa reinventing himself to become The Rock, and him being such a, oh god, just such a jerk of a character to really seriously get over. Same thing with Scott Hall when he became the you know the character and the persona of Razor Ramon. Just fantastic. He goes from the ultimate babyface in the AWA territory, tag team champions with Kurt Hennig, getting just thumped by the Road Warriors, shows up, hey yo, like now all of a sudden he's the bad guy. Like, how do that definitely is a great, great reinvention. Um, the reinventing of what we thought was an entrance in wrestling, and now you've got just some awesome, like the spectacle of entering the ring. Killer Cross in Charlotte, hands down one of the best entrances in professional wrestling. Finn Balor as the Demon, one of the best ones. um there's some serious, serious, serious creativity and character work going on in some of these entrances, and it can't be overstated. The guys over at What Culture, they do their questions and they play the first couple of notes of an entrance song, and I don't follow the entrance music that much. You'll know the major ones, but as a general rule, you know, I don't I don't know, a lot of the songs in the entrance music that when it hits, but when it does, it's something else. How about when the wrestler that's been fighting from underneath finally achieves that ultimate goal? To see, Kofi Kingston win the title, to see um, Darby Allin win the TNT title. That was pretty remarkable. Here's another really good one during, the I guess the initial inception of AEW, and Moxley shows up, and then they show up with the incomplete TNT title, the all silver version, just because of manufacturing, everything was backdated because that was right in the throes of COVID, and then they come rolling out with that new triple B AEW world title. Woof. And who comes rolling out with it? Bret the Hitman Hart. What? Come on. Like that, that was that's something that will not, won't soon be forgotten. I think any time the WWE wrestlers left and showed up in AEW was that was a moment, the just imagine now if Hardy, Matt, Jeff, or both were to show up in AEW during the live, with a crowd and everything. um Matt did it, and they did it right, just down the road at the Jag Stadium, and they had to do all this cinematic stuff to make it, really hit, and super creative. It was, for the time, it was pretty remarkable. Um, but definitely would blow the roof off the place now. Um, well, not now because he's not. If he had the same popularity that he did, when he first got there, I think that would be fantastic. Some of the wrestlers returning after being released, I thought was really cool. Um, just to see, the monstrosity of Bronson Reed come rolling in, that was pretty cool. I think some shocking moments in wrestling, and, seeing Vince walk away, Stephanie become one of the presidents, and then, to flip the script and leave, and then Vince come back, or Vince comes back, then Stephanie leaves, and all the rigmarole with that. The shock and awe of I'm going to be selling the WWE and all this other stuff. Like, come on, that that can wear people out. But that's that the suspended belief going on in there. Some other shocking moments watching Mankind and Undertaker on top of the cage. And if you listen to the documentary now, and Mick Foley said, "Oh yeah, I went on top, no problem. We did our practice and stuff." No sir, no he did not. And as they're walking, you're hearing the bing 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 because the thin aluminum straps that hold the cage on, that Mick would eventually fall through, couldn't hold, what was it, almost 600 pounds between Undertaker and Mankind. That, just the monstrosity and the optic of that match. Mick Foley's been involved in many memorable moments. The match with him and The Rock, I think, really changed, a lot of people's perception. And same thing with the unprotected chair shots. I think that was that was a pretty gory match. I think the match with Mick Foley and Orton, when Orton was like a baby, and really wanted to bring the Viper out of him, and just really wore him out. That was definitely a sight to see. I think Brock Lesnar showing up and being the beast incarnate has still has the shock and awe when his music hits and everybody's like, it was he still really moves the needle. The when Jay, finally showed up, the crowd was feeling that. Definitely not. I mean, it wouldn't be in the top 100, but because it's so memorable right now, it's pretty fantastic. I think the assembly, or the the birth of the new world order. New world order. The measuring stick just moved around here. Um, really, really put wrestling fans sort of on their toes because it was so different. And again, if you listen to the documentary that A&E has going on right now, that was episode 1 of season 3, goes through the whole dialogue, how he came up with the idea. He'd seen some stuff in Japan, how everything was super memorable and super real, and the stories that were being told and how it was being told was so different than here. It was just full of a bunch of comic book characters larger than life, or what what we were. Not that Jake the Milkman Milliman and the Brooklyn Brawler weren't fantastic. They just looked like everyday dudes. So there it is. But anytime a character can be built, get over, the crowd feels it. The birth of the man, when Nia Jax popped Becky in the chops, busted her orbital bone or no and or nose, and blood was everywhere during that invasion angle when the blue brand, um, bombarded the red brand, and and now here she is, no longer Becky Two Belts or Big Time Bex or whatever, trying to go back to that man moniker. I think was fantastic. The birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and though in one night he would go from just being a dude, looked pretty cool, bald, decent shape, all black, the anti-hero, not the first anti-hero, because that would, definitely be Jake the Snake, but um, you would go from, you know, Stone Cold 316 said, I just whipped your ass. And the birth, that's the birth of 316. And um just, oh man, that was fantastic. So you get the birth of Stone Cold, you get his lines. Something that's not super fun is still that wow. And but now you got LA Knight walking around LA Knight, yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. But that'll probably get old or go away eventually. Um some shocking moments that would continue to, and now we're sitting here, we're having this conversation, and you're like, well, wait a minute, what about this? What about, what about when these people showed up? What about when these people showed up? You're right. I can't remember them all. Yeah, it was pretty fantastic seeing the LOD come to the WWE. Those football pads and the spikes, that was freaking fantastic. Seeing seeing the machines, knowing full well that that was damn Andre the Giant under a mask. Like, come on, dude, you can't. Um, the I'm just running through my head all these different events and different people showing up. When Randy Savage showed up to the WWE and all these managers were coming down to ringside, you didn't have social media. You had wrestling magazines and you had tape trading. And if you had a friend that lived in, the mid South area or mid Atlantic area, hey, dude, I just saw this guy. Oh, no way. That's crazy, man. Yeah, I love wrestling, blah, blah, blah. Next thing who's Elizabeth? Well, she's the manager of the Macho Man, Randy Savage. So, I mean, you really saw some really cool stuff occurring because you could, live the character. You could hide behind the cloak of secrecy because it was so regional. Things that happened in overseas, whether it was in Japan or Hawaii or not in the continental United States, almost didn't happen at all. Or Puerto Rico, Mexico to a certain extent. Titles would be won and lost, and they, we gets back on the plane. He's still got the title because he's the champion everywhere else. That was just a move that they had to do because the crowd in Puerto Rico was crazy. So, it was just one of those things. Or they had a match real quick in another region, and Ric Flair or Carlos Colon or whoever those regional champions were would get their title back. But now with wrestling being what it is and social media being what it is, you and I can talk on Twitter. You can hit me up at No Shave Man Cave on Twitter. You can check me out right here on YouTube or on Acast, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We can just, you know, we can have a little dialogue via text or tweeting or um, on TikTok or Instagram. We can message one another, but it wasn't like that back then. And to see where we are now, the technological advances and our, I'm doing air quotes for everyone who doesn't have our executive 1999 a minute broadcasting doesn't really exist. Um, we there there's no way to really hide and slide and do stuff, because it's everywhere. Everybody's got a camera in their hand. Everybody's got a little computer. I'm walking around. I've got whatever version of iPhone that I've got. I can do everything from this, from banking, email, texting, taking photos, filming, everything. And that wasn't the case back then. So wrestling has evolved to a certain extent, but then at the same time, we've sort of devolved with some of the character work. Now we can go back and think about some of the memorable moments in wrestling, and with women, when Fabulous Moolah won the title back from Wendy Richter. What a screw job, right? She was the the widow or the spider or something, and it was obvious who it was. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this really going to go down? Like nobody's going to say anything? And they, instead of doing the job, they thought that that was the best way to do it. Seeing some of the legends show back up, or how about when Medusa dropped the women's world title on WCW television, dropped the WWE title, WWF title in a trash can. That for that era, that was huge. That was a, massive, massive no-no. Seeing Sting in a WWE ring, I thought was pretty fantastic. I wish it would have had a little bit better outcome. Him getting injured and then him coming back and having that match, um, some kind of NWO WCW versus DX. I wasn't a huge fan of that. I wish they could have just had a fun wrestling match for the fans instead of Vince, getting his moment over. I think something that will be very, very memorable will be on April 2nd when we see Cody Rhodes win the Universal Undisputed Heavyweight Championship, and Roman, after just dominating for almost 1,000 days. How is he gonna respond? How is the crowd gonna respond? Not necessarily to the loss, but to Cody winning and finishing his story. That will be memorable. That will be, something like when, Shawn Michaels won the world title. He dropped to his knees. He won it right there in Texas, and, the commentators were saying, "A boyhood dream has come true." This isn't just a boyhood dream. This is a family dream. This is a something that the Rhodes/Reynolds family has wanted since they got the wild idea to be a professional wrestler, or get into professional wrestling. And they've held the Intercontinental, the United States, Dusty was a multi-time world champion in WCW and NWA, and held that world title when he had a match against superstar Billy Graham in Madison Square Garden, but he won because of a countout. So there is a photo with Dusty holding the then WWF title. And um unfortunately Dusty isn't here to see it, and I really hope that they somehow figure out a way to have Dustin ringside. I think that would be shit hot. I think that would be fantastic. And, it probably I don't and I don't think it's because Tony won't, because look what Tony did. Here's another shocking moment. Jericho being on Stone Cold Sessions. I was my jaw dropped um to see that Jericho was going to be on the show. It's on the WWE network or Peacock. He's basically the only people up until then that have been on that show were WWE performers. That was it. So I thought that was pretty fantastic and very, very classy. The questions were great, the energy was great, the whole thing I thought was fantastic, and absolutely worth a watch if you haven't checked out Stone Cold Sessions on Peacock. It's like if you go to Peacock, you go to WWE, like on the left-hand side on the menu, go to originals and you can see all of the different episodes. If you haven't watched any, you can kind of cherry pick and figure out which ones you want to watch. I've seen all of them a couple of times. I thought Undertaker was fantastic. He's been on 2 or 3 times. That was all of them have been top notch. I even thought the Big Show, Paul White, thought his episode was really good. I'm a big fan of Mark Henry. That episode was good. Charlotte, she seemed tired, like, but Stone Cold really had a great exchange with them, with her. Super, super fun. Great show, great format. I think Stone Cold is fantastic at what he does. So, but hey, what about the way we started? We're going to finish strong. Shocking, memorable moments in professional wrestling. Would it be the Ultimate Warrior beating Hogan for the world title and having the world title and the Intercontinental title? Would that be up there for you? Would um, Seth Rollins running out and cashing in during WrestleMania to win the world title, would that be up there? Would Ric Flair winning the WWF title when he outlasted all those people, and he said that this was the most fantastic night of his life, and you know like that that definitely was really something. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat winning the world title was pretty fantastic. Kerry Von Erich beating Ric Flair for the world title, that was fantastic. We already talked about Undertaker breaking the streak, or Brock Lesnar breaking Undertaker's streak. But for me, where wrestling is, where wrestling's going, memorable moments, I would definitely have to put up there WrestleMania 3, Hogan versus Andre, um, and the body slam heard around the world, Hogan getting the win. I think that was, pretty fantastic. You might be sitting there saying, well, what about this and what about that? Well, Hogan and Rock, that was one of my top 2, top 3 matches of all time. The 3 the 3 tag teams during SummerSlam with the Dudleys, Hardys, Edge and Christian. That's my number 1 match. If you're not sure what you want, out of a wrestling match and you're a lapsed fan and you're just checking us out because you're a veteran too. Thank you for your service and everything you do. Some gave all gave some. Today's the 22nd of the month. I'm rocking a remembrance T-shirt. Pretty fantastic. Day today is March 22nd. This is one of those day of meta, trying to find the best in people. Pretty cool. But, we're sitting here talking about professional wrestling and the most memorable moments. And there are so many, and they're memorable for different reasons. And for you, it may be different than for me. JT would probably, you know, talk about the emotional connection. Maybe it was a moment the first time that he had Edie at a wrestling show. Definitely for me, one of the most memorable live moments was I was in Raleigh and Coden and Rylan were right there with me, and we were sitting. We weren't ringside; we were the section up, so we were a couple feet higher than ringside, and I chose those seats because I didn't want to be looking right at the ring. And man, when I heard, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, D Generation X brings like, oh my God. And the music hit. I was like, no way. Definitely memorable because I was a big New Age Outlaws fan, thought that was fantastic. Sort of patent my entrance wording on them. So, memorable live moments, JT and I, we were at Forbidden Door in Chicago. And if you want to talk about energy, just seeing the first wrestlers come out and Tony Khan come out and everything that was going on, the crowd was great, the venue was fantastic. A couple of drunk guys next to us, but it's whatever. No, so good time. So for me, the most memorable moment in professional wrestling, something that will forever burn in my brain besides watching Jerry the King Lawler throw a fireball that made me fall in love with wrestling, would have to be WrestleMania 3 and Hulk Hogan against Andre the Giant. And that body slam, just woo, fantastic. The what was it, 4 moves total between the 2 wrestlers, but just, that was very, very fantastic. So, again, can't say enough, can't give enough thanks. If it doesn't come out in, the way my voice sounds, I apologize, but I am on behalf of JT, we are extremely humble and very, very grateful. And, like, we say every time, look out for yourselves, look out for each other. If you're in crisis, 988, get some help. Go to someone that you feel you can confide in, whether it's someone with your religious preference or counseling service, or somebody, if you're on active duty, swing by medical, see if they can hook you up. But go by the chaplain. Talk to your first sergeant, your sergeant major, your master sergeant, whoever. Someone, you are loved. Someone is looking out for you, and you're not alone. So please, please do what you have to do to get help. And again, I can't say enough. Thank you for checking us out. We'll be here every day dropping some wrestling nuggets. And again, so grateful. So check us out. Keep doing it. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe, check us out, and we'll be here at No Shave Man Cave. So, on behalf of JT, take up, look out for yourselves, and we'll see you on the floor.